Live from Long Island, New York, the Sunny Days Media Football Show, Season 2. Tonight, we're coming at you. It's just myself, Pask, and Facino. A couple of the boys are out. One's in Italy, and one is saving the good people of Connecticut. I don't remember what firehouse he's in. So, it's me and you, Facino. Opening
Let's
weekend, opening night. We got a game tomorrow. We got a game tonight. We got a game tomorrow, which we'll get into the game tomorrow. My God, how dumb, how stupid it was for them to put a game in Brazil. But we'll get into that later, right? And the money hungry claws and paws of Roger Goodell and the NFL. Oh, there goes the mic. But tonight, it's about the Ravens. It's about the Chiefs. We saw last year my Detroit Lions walk into Kansas City, beat them by a point. I think it was a point, right? Yeah, whatever it was. Walk in, beat them, kind of stun the world a little bit. I think it'd be stunning the world if the Ravens win tonight, right? Like the Ravens are a great team. They play the championship. They got debatably the best quarterback. Well, these are probably the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, right? So, yeah, definitely Mahomes is the best. But that's up for debate, right? And it settles debate tonight. They're in Kansas City. Spread right now is looking like Chiefs -3. That seems generous. I wasn't going to gamble tonight, but I might do a little sprinkle. Might do a little sprinkle on Baltimore. How are we feeling right now? Football's back. You're wearing your Jags gear.
Let me tell you something, man.
Solar panel shit comes off. Jags gear comes on. We're in football mode, right? As George Costanza used to say, I'm in soup mode. I'm transitioning to soup mode.
I've been waiting for this game I've been waiting for the Ravens to play since April. Okay. From when you're 5 years old, if you run the ball and you get 5 yards every time, you score a touchdown, 1st and 10, 2nd and 5, 1st and 10, 2nd and 5. That's how you're supposed to play football. And you could tell what a defensive coordinator is doing with the passing game. They're making it an extension of the running game. So you have, Joe Namath in the 60s throwing it 80 yards down the field to Don Maynard. Now you got Rashee Rice catching everything at the line of scrimmage. What are you? You're an extension of the run game, bro. And that's what they're doing. So they're making football become, be perfect in the short passing game. What I want to see is, as linebackers are getting more athletic and lighter, I want to see if the Ravens can take the greatest running quarterback I've ever seen, as well as the probably most gifted player that we've seen in our lifetime with the football in their hands.
Mike Vick retired a few years ago. What are you talking
Lamar
about?
Jackson is infinitely better. I'm sorry.
Nah,
Mike Vick's great player.
No one's going to top prime Mike Vick for me.
Lamar Jackson does it every week.
Running-wise.
I think nobody could touch Lamar Jackson. He's literally the most untouchable player, I've ever seen, and someone that could just run right through you.
Yeah. And now he's got a Mack truck behind him wearing number 22, Derrick Henry. I don't buy into this. Derrick Henry's obviously slowing down a little bit. You muted yourself there, Facino. Henry slowed down. The production is not where it was 4 or 5 years, really like 3 years ago, but it's still Derrick Henry back there. He's still a missile coming out of the backfield. He's still 6'2", 250. Like this is still a force to be reckoned with. This could be, especially tonight. Like we have to remember, week 1 is always sloppy, right? It never looks great. It's never crisp, good, clean football. It's always sloppy, and I think, like you said, to piggyback on you, both of these teams, specifically Baltimore, they are going to rely heavily on the run game tonight.
Yeah, and I think that we may see the most efficient running game of all time with this Ravens team. You're stacking the box consistently for the last 6 years when you're going up against Derrick Henry. Every team does it. Obviously, it doesn't really work. He just faces the most, 8-9-man box. It is what it is. He makes what he will. Last year, he had a horrible offensive line. The Titans have revamped it a little bit, but Skoronski just wasn't good last year. They thought he was going to be good. Their center was horrible, and how are you going to run the ball when your quarterback's Will Levis and there was no threat to pass the ball in the beginning of the year as well as the end of the year. It was not a great offense. You knew it was Derrick Henry or nothing, and he still was the second leading rusher last year. This year, what are you going to do? You're going to crash down on Derrick Henry? Well, guess what? Lamar Jackson has the ball now. So I just think it's going to be very interesting to see how teams defend against this. And I think that you're going to see guys like Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews just open forever all day over the middle of the field. So I think the Ravens probably have, a chance to win 14, 15 games this year if it goes well. And tonight is the biggest test they have to see if they can beat up on the Chiefs. The Chiefs, I don't think they're as good as the Ravens right now. I think the Ravens just can't get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah, they can, man. They looked great. Played one game, and then that second game they lost against Kansas City. They looked so sloppy. Once again, receivers dropping the ball right on Lamar, and Lamar didn't play his best game. He was a little banged up. He was talking today about how if his legs were good, they would have won that game. I mean, Lamar, it's playoff football. No one's legs are good. No one's feeling great. Like, you just played a full season, and now you played what's called the postseason, right?
That's exactly.
So you can't come out and say, and I listen, I agree with Lamar. In a vacuum, the Chiefs were not the best team in the NFL last year, right? Like, by no means were they. The Ravens were. By all accounts, by all metrics, everything you look at, they were the best. Just the Chiefs showed up that day, but that's football. And to expect that you're going to be feeling great going into that game, the only way you feel great is maybe if you take the whole month of December off, and no one's doing it.
No.
That's the truth. That's the truth. No. Like, anybody that plays in any sport, like, you can't play that consistently and then expect to feel good in January. So he's got to get that out of his head. I'm sure he does. I know the Baltimore Ravens are ready to go tonight. And this is what I was going to say. When you were talking about what we're going to see tonight, I think we're going to see a lot of the RPO coming out, which is not a hot take. Like, you've got Derrick Henry, you got Lamar Jackson, you got two great running threats. Lamar's got a gun. We're going to see a lot of the RPO this year from the Baltimore Ravens. As long as Henry's back there, that's going to be. And I'm this. We ran the triple option in high school. We are not. Yeah. I'm not an option guy. I don't think you are. I like it in spurts. I don't like an offense based around it, but they could run it a lot this year and be dominant, absolutely dominant.
Look, well, we ran a wing T. When you run a wing T, you're telling the defense where you're going with the football, which was the biggest issue of that. But what we have with the Ravens is there's no the triple op. The third option here is the pass. Our third option was the pitch. Like, I mean, the Georgia Tech, offense, it just doesn't work. Even they had to adapt. So what are we doing here with Lamar Jackson when he's obviously he's pulling the ball 80% of the time, even if Derrick Henry's there? Like, you could give it to him, whatever, but pulling the ball, you have still two great options. And I think throwing the ball is really their first read. You're not looking to run the ball. You're looking to throw the ball. Where the linebacker's going. If they're moving forward, you're pulling that every time and throwing it to Mark Andrews.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot of that, because what are you going to do? Not step up when Derrick Henry's got the ball in his gut? What do you do? It's impossible for teams to defend this team, and they don't have just Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely is a fantastic football player. It's going to be either next to him or on the other side. It's going to be really I'm really excited, man. I love watching it go. I love 50-yard bombs and stuff, but I like seeing that stuff right.
There's nothing better than a ground and pound offense. We've talked a lot about Baltimore, and I think we're both a little more, I guess, privy or excited about Baltimore when we watch them. Especially, you think of those old Baltimore teams, Ray Lewis and T. Sizzle and all those guys. Let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Pat Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey. The wide receiver room didn't get a whole lot better. I want to say their first-round pick was a wide receiver this year. Was it not? I want to say it was.
The Chiefs?
Yes.
First-round pick?
Yes.
Xavier Worthy.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the big
kid from Texas.
This is the big this is the big issue with the Bills here, because the Bills were picking at 28. and they could have taken Xavier Worthy 4-2-1. You know, the guy's been a great player where he's going. He plays as a freshman in Texas. I mean, that speaks for itself.
Right.
And he has elite takeoff speed, breakaway speed, and you traded back with the Chiefs when you needed a wide receiver. You didn't have to take Xavier Worthy, but take a wide receiver that you think is the best wide receiver on the board because you don't want the Chiefs to take that player. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they allowed the Chiefs to jump them for Xavier Worthy, it's a move that teams make, and you could just guarantee that the guy is probably going to be good.
Right.
How could you make that? How could you allow Pat Mahomes to have this player? So I think you'll see a few bombs to him. Maybe he doesn't have, maybe he's a 900-yard receiver this year. It's not going to be, otherworldly, but how could you allow him to get this guy?
He'll be a key guy there. He's going to catch some deep passes. He's going to be a guy that moves the chains. He's going to be a very, very big part of this offense. I shouldn't say very big. He will be a significant part of this offense. And I agree with you. The Bills, their offseason doesn't make sense to me. I think this is the decline. I think this is the end of this era in Buffalo. I don't know that – I'm not going to sit here and tell you Sean McDermott's going to get fired or Josh Allen's getting traded. I mean, I can't say any of that. I think whatever pieces they've got that are movable are gone by the trade deadline, I believe. But I think this is the beginning of the end for the Bills. Stevie Mack, always tuning in today's shows. Stevie, we appreciate you. We hope you're excited about your Cowboys this year. I'm certainly not. I think they're going to take a step back this year, but we'll get into that Sunday. What else do you have on tonight, Facino?
So the Ravens are a great team. They also didn't have a great draft, technically, in my opinion, off the bat, because nobody's starting. They don't have a single rookie starting. So hopefully Nate Wiggins gets in the game here. Yeah, okay. They don't have any starters that they drafted. Look, it is what it is. I think Nate Wiggins would be great. I also think that TJ Tampa is going to be great. But the Chiefs have what's his name? Worthy, obviously, starting, and they have Kingsley Suamataia. So the interesting thing with him is that he's a third-round pick left tackle. You got teams like the Jets that are panicking for their left tackle because they had an emotional response after already signing Tyron Smith. It's just an emotional response to that. Drafting a guy at 11 overall, he can't see the football field. But the Chiefs, defending champions, they can draft their left tackle in the third round. Is going to start week 1. So I hope he doesn't have a great game, obviously, because I want to make, I just don't want to have to think about that, just happening. Passing up on Brock Bowers or Brian Thomas Jr. for a backup. So on the Jets end, I would be rooting heavily against the left tackle.
He's going to be starting for you guys.
Hopefully he does. But third round pick was able to start for the defending world champs. Not a good look, I think, for the Jets GM, as usual, as he's continued his streak of misery. Outside of, obviously, Tyron Smith, good pick. And I like Mike Williams. But other than that, man.
I do hope for your sake and for a lot of our viewers' sake, we don't have to have Jets group therapy sessions.
No, we don't. Look, you had a big divide in the Jets fan base this year. You had the Brock Bowers people and you had the tackle people. And
you were Brock Bowers people.
It's just one of those things where you look back on it and it has nothing to do right or wrong. What happens to be is the Jets needed a tight end. They also needed a left tackle, but they needed a tight end since 1950. So the fact that they passed up on that for the 70th year in a row in a must-win that window, there were a lot of reasons to not want to tackle in that round. But regardless, two rookies started for the Chiefs. Interesting. No one starting for the Ravens. So definitely keeping an eye on those guys for sure, as always.
If you were a gambling man tonight, the spread is, as I said, Ravens are getting 3.
Yeah.
Over under is 45.5, and Ravens money line 125. If you were a gambling man, where would you be?
Untakeable game. Both teams probably. I mean, you can make an easy argument for both teams. So I would just biasly pick the Ravens, but I also never win when I gamble. So if I like the Ravens, then the Chiefs will probably win.
But now
But I like the Ravens. I
you've
take
got
the
the
Ravens.
grace of taking the Ravens at +3, in which they could lose by 2 points, and or even they could lose by 3 and you could push, which is a loss, I guess. I don't know. For me, I'm a
Let me
bad
tell you
gambler,
something.
so I'll take a push half the time. But
Look, when you're talking about who you think's going to win, and you're talking about week 1,
Yeah.
any spread under 5 is irrelevant. Any team can win. If you're going to win a game you're not supposed to win, it's this week. So,
it's week 1.
you know, I watched the Jaguars beat the Colts and then lose every other game the whole rest of the season. So, it's a completely irrelevant week, but you just want your team to win because it matters in week 18 that they won this game.
Right.
So, it really is important.
I was just talking in the Detroit show how important it is, I believe, to win your September games. It's crucial if you're a team with Super Bowl aspirations. At a minimum, you got to come out 2-2, but ideally, you want to come out 3-1, 4-0, because once October, November rolls around, the injuries start to add up, guys go down. You're playing with, your offensive line is going to be a mishmash version of what you started with. A receiver's going to go down. Corners nowadays, Jesus Christ, it's like every single week a corner's tearing an ACL, breaking an ankle, or popping an Achilles. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's all to do. This is a different conversation, but I don't think all of this has to do with turf fields. I think a lot of it is just genuinely these guys are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been. The movements they're making are sharper and harder than they've ever been. Mm-hmm. And what's going to come with that is injuries. It's the same thing when we talk about head-to-head and some of these defensive penalties. Like, some of these guys are just really big and really fast, and the collision's going to be big. And guys are going to get hurt. This is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. And, some of those injuries we're talking about, those are contact.
They're unavoidable. A lot of injuries are unavoidable because
they are.
Your muscles are so strong and your tendons don't get stronger like that. So you only have a certain tendon. You people are tearing their ACLs in planting. Why do you think? Because they're just stronger than that ligament. And they're doing it off their own power.
Right.
And that happens for a lot of people.
And that's why the September games are so important, because you're giving yourself leeway in November to lose a game that you should have won, right? You're giving yourself leeway around Halloween to drop a game to a divisional opponent. You never want to do those things, but September is your bonus. It's almost like baseball when we talk about April and how people say, oh, April games don't matter. They do fucking matter when you miss the playoffs by 2 games or 1 game, right? Like that shit does matter. These things add up. And so it's both of these teams. I mean, I think both these teams are walking into this like maybe not the Chiefs, right? Because they literally lost week 1 last year and they won the Super Bowl. But I do think that these two teams are walking into this like it's a playoff game, because I think they both know they're going to see each other. They believe they're going to see each other again, right? Now, the second version of this may be in Baltimore. If I had to put money on it, I would bet that second game is going to be in Baltimore like it was last year.
Yeah.
But these are two teams that are probably going to see each other again.
You'd think in theory, and what were they last year? They were really the two teams with a healthy quarterback. That's kind of how it shook out. The Bills were a team with a healthy quarterback. So unfortunately, they met last year because of health,
right?
Probably more than anything. But this year, if they're both healthy, I think the Jets are better. The Jets should be able to compete with both those teams and potentially beat one, so that championship matchup doesn't happen. I think maybe a year early on the Texans. I think I would like to say the Jaguars. I would need to see for 4 or 5 weeks, though. See if they can get something consistent in the interior run game. I think you got to see
after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
See after Thanksgiving what they look like. Because they're another team that, like the Dolphins, that we joke and say, oh, once the weather gets colder. But, I mean, it's the truth with that. I'm not saying it's weather-related, but it's the truth. Like, as that season goes on, that team starts to drop off. And honestly, with the Jaguars, it's defense. It's fucking defense.
No, well, let me tell you something. It's actually interior O-line. for both the Dolphins and the Jaguars. They have guys that can absolutely get manhandled inside, and you can't allow that. You can't consistently drive the ball downfield. You can get a deep shot every now and then if you have a good quarterback, and then obviously the defense as well needs to show that they can get more turnovers.
The Jaguars, I think was it Jaguars Bengals last year? What game was it? I think it was Jaguars Bengals when you guys were playing the Bengals.
Yeah.
And they didn't have Joe Burrow, and it was a primetime matchup. And I'm just watching. The Jaguars were up like 3-4 scores. Not to rehash an open wound here, but like it's killing me watching them play defense because I'm like, you have this game in the bag.
Horrible, man.
You have this fucking game, and this is like those Lions teams of anything before last year, where like you go up 3 scores, it's late in the third, all you got to do is sit on it. Don't give up touchdown. Make their offense work for it and continue to kick field goals, and you'll win. It'll be ugly, but you'll win.
Well, yeah. I think that it's important to talk about week 1 too. The players that are healthy are great. Great players that are unhealthy are normal and sometimes liabilities. And when you're trying to get guys back from hamstring injuries and groins and, anything where you got to run, knee, you might not be back, yet you're playing. And you could look so bad that the team sucks because of your best players. And that was the biggest issue with the Jaguars last year. Their secondary was so banged up and they were trying to play through it and they weren't good. And it showed.
Chris jumping in the chat here. Kickoff delayed tonight. According to every source on Twitter, the rain is falling very hard. Lightning.
Oh my God, the Ravens are going to win.
So
Ravens 100% win. My bad.
Spinning on a dime. There's Vecino.
Ravens -10.
I'll do it.
Awesome.
I'll fucking do it. I'll see what FanDuel gives me on that. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And looking back at, you're talking about the Jets, they have the potential, absolutely, to be a 12-13 win team. Right? You look at that roster, that's probably the best defense in football. I think maybe the best running back, maybe a top 3. You want to argue top 3, top 5 running back in the NFL. They've got some solid receivers. Garrett Wilson's got some drop issues, but if he can get past that, that's not what worries me. What worries me with the Jets, like you said, at tight end, absolutely. The offensive line outside of the depth they've got now with Fashanu, I worry a little about that depth just based off what I saw last year. I don't know what new brought in this year other than Olu Fashanu, but Rodgers has a ton to prove. This is a guy who has not really, he threw a pass, wasn't completed, and not on him, right? He played 4 plays. This is a guy that his last completed pass in the NFL was to Kirby Joseph, a Lions free safety, as a Green Bay Packer, right? To solidify the Packers not going to the playoffs in 2022. Aaron Rodgers, he's up there in age. He's got a lot to prove. I'm not sitting here saying to you that he won't be able to do it, but at a minimum, you've got to admit that.
Yeah, I think he's going to win the MVP. So, we couldn't disagree more.
Okay.
I think that there's only one thing the one thing in life that I've always found always consistent is that the guy with the most to prove and the most to lose and the most motivation and the most adversity, if harnessed, always winds up on top.
Oh, I think
Tom Brady did it.
There's guys with more to lose this year.
I don't think so, dude.
Not necessarily. What is Rodgers? Rodgers has a Super Bowl.
He's
got a Hall of Fame career,
but he's
not losing that.
More than that, his ego is what it drives him, which is fine. Like there's pros and cons to that, but what drives him is that, and what has been spoken about him, and the hatred towards him, and the injury, and the have to see it to believe it. Oh, on Aaron Rodgers, you got to see it. You don't
the guy's
really
in his
have to
40s.
see it.
I do.
He should,
He's in
and
his
he
40s.
wants to, and he will, because he's Aaron Rodgers, is going to go out on his terms, and he's most likely going to dominate this year. And Garrett Wilson's going to be a guy that is a league winner in fantasy. And Mike Williams is a top 15 yards per game receiver when he's played over the last 3 years, even as a wide receiver too. And Breece Hall is an unbelievable running back, and he's going to utilize that with Tyron Smith. They have a great O-line. If they stay healthy, Rodgers is just going to manipulate these D-backs into biting on plays, and he's just going to use the run game. It's going to be beautiful. He's in way more command than people think. He's going to be calling the plays. He's got an eye in the sky and Hackett, and that's all he needs.
You have faith in Hackett.
And if he gets hurt, then I want Joe Douglas fired immediately, no matter what. Even though he signed Tyrod Taylor, I don't want to go through that guy ever again. What he did to the fans.
Well, that's what factors in with the age. I mean, that'll have nothing to do with his ability and what he could do, but the age is a very real thing. I mean,
yeah,
it happened a little later to Tom Brady, but we saw it very late in Tom's last year. Tom looked like a shell of his former self, right? Like toward the end of that season, it looked horrible. Same with Peyton Manning. The year they won the Super Bowl, guy couldn't complete a fucking pass, right? So, which is like crazy. We forget how good that defense, that receiving, literally everyone but Peyton that year was unbelievable. That Brock reminds me of the 2009-2010 Jets. If they had a quarterback, they're winning a Super Bowl. The difference was the Broncos did win the Super Bowl, but that's my whole thing with Rodgers. That's the only thing he's got to prove is that he still got it, and maybe that's foolish of me. Maybe that's the hatred from him kicking our ass for fucking 15 years, whatever it was. But that's what I have to see. And listen, they're gonna be put to the test week 1, Monday night against the 49ers. I believe that's in San Francisco.
San Fran.
Right? Like that's going to be a fucking hard environment. It's going to be a hard game to win. And Rodgers comes out and puts on a show. He's all the way back. I'll come out and say it here. He'll be all the way back.
They might slap him around. I'm telling you, this team is so the expectations, the fall from grace, the adversity, the locker room in shambles, the fucking quarterback. I don't want to play. Are you fucking kidding? You're at such a rock bottom. Your back is all the way against the wall right now. And guess what?
You're talking about last year?
Hall of Fame legend. Yeah. Your legendary quarterback is all you, and you know he's going to do it because he's Aaron Rodgers. So the whole team is like possessed with this fucking want now. Not only because they thought they had it last year, but to prove everybody wrong. That's like, I gotta wait. The Jets are this, the Jets are that. Can you believe Hassan Reddick?
Well, a lot of people
they need to go out there, bro.
People that aren't Jet fans are high on the Jets,
dude. It's.
I think
it
you
doesn't
just see a
matter
lot of the
who's
negativity.
high on them. It doesn't matter who's not high on them. What they felt last year, they are never going to feel that again, and you better believe that. Because that's how it goes.
I just can't believe that the NFL. I can believe it. Who the fuck am I saying? I think it was fucking nuts that the NFL scheduled them again on Monday night, week 1. Like,
should have been a 1 o'clock.
Could have been a fucking 1 o'clock game.
Should have fucking put them up against the Panthers at 1 o'clock. Like, here you go, please. Yeah. But instead they're like, nah, fuck them. Like, I get, and then it's ridiculous.
Is Chase Young still 49er?
No, he might be actually. Where is he? Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. But yeah, what about the Lions, man?
I'm excited. Opening night against Stafford and the Rams. Stafford wants that payback for that playoff game. I saw a rumor there's going to be a tribute video. I pray to God there isn't. There's no reason to do that.
Not.
This is Jared's team now. This is Jared City. He proved himself last year, right? He proved his worth. As shitty as that loss was in the NFC Championship, that was not on Jared. Defense just had nothing left. I'm hoping if this is a Lions team that could give us, and they should be better than this defensively, but if they could just be a top half of the league, like a 15th, 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th ranked overall defense, this is a team that could go to a Super Bowl. It is hard to argue with the firepower they've got on this offense. They've got, not debatable anymore, they've got the best line in football. They've got one of the best running games in football. Maybe not the best, but it's got to be in the conversation of top three. They've got a real good to great receiving core. It's the defense. Like defense has to come out and make a statement. It would be great to make that statement on Sunday Night Football against Matt Stafford. They're going to be playing without potentially DJ Reader. We don't know that yet. Ife Melifonwu will not be playing. But they've got to play. They've got to play solid pass defense. The run defense is there. Adding DJ Reader is huge in the middle of your defense at D tackle, right? Like that's a run stuffer. That's a cork for a wine bottle. Like nothing's getting past him. And Aleem McNeil's great. I worry about the secondary a little bit. It's very young. Terrion Arnold and Ernest Rackstraw, all those guys.
Okay. So what's up with Rackstraw? What's going on there? Did he have a good camp or what's
No, Arnold was the one that got hurt. I don't know. I haven't heard much about. I'm in the middle of a home renovation, so I have not. I've watched bits and pieces of the preseason.
Well, I think Arnold's going to start at nickel though.
Yes.
And Rakestraw's a backup. I think Rakestraw's non-nickel. So
Arnold's going to be, I believe, the CB2 on this team. I'm assuming Carlton Davis, like depth chart wise. Carlton and actually, what's his face? The guy Amik Robert, I think is his name.
Oh wait, they're not. Arnold's not playing in the nickel he's not playing the slot.
Yeah, I was just saying it's probably Robertson, right?
Carlton Davis.
Carlton Davis in the nickel.
And then you have I'm sorry, Derek Barnes.
Derek Barnes is a linebacker.
Why am I reading it? Hold on. I'm sorry, Amik Robertson. You're right.
Yeah. He's the nickel.
So interesting. So you're not putting Terran on a nickel. I think it's interesting. I think he would. I thought he would play nickel.
Amik that's what he did in for Vegas.
And Ray Rakestraw's not playing.
Yeah, he's gonna cycle in and out. Rackstraw. Is it Rackstraw or Rackstraw?
I thought it was Rackstraw, but we'll see. I mean, it doesn't matter tonight because he's not starting. We'll figure it out when he starts.
That's where they're at. If they could stop the pass, there's nothing that could stop this team.
What's up at Marcus Davenport?
I think he's starting, or it's either him or Pascal that are going to start opposite of Hutchinson. But I think Davenport's he's probably going to cycle in and out with Pascal at the end.
All right, that's a little weak, but I think James Houston's got to have a better year this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, guy went out week 2 last year, broken ankle, covering of. He got hurt on a kickoff, which was insane. But they had him dropping back into coverage, and that was the other thing I was thinking of. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on the defensive coordinator here, a tremendous amount. It's been, 2021 he got a pass. 22 it was improved but bad. 23 it was a little improved off that, but still bad. They had some big picks to end the year, which made them look a little better. But Aaron Glenn could run a defense consistently for a full season, because if this defense and you saw how hard this draft they went after defense. Those first 2 were both corners. Like that's Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes saying, "Hey, like we're giving you what you need to win." Right? Like their big splash free agent was a D tackle. And probably the best one on the market this year. So like the excuses are wearing thin. You need to nut up or shut up.
Exactly. Well, look, the whole thing with the Lions is that all they got to do is do the same thing last year. I mean, that's all they got to do. They should have won the Super Bowl last year. So maybe they could just win this year instead. You can't win them all.
You can't win them all.
You just got to be as good as that for 3 years in a row, and then you got like a really good shot.
We're coming up on 8 o'clock here. Do you have anything else before we get going?
No, let's see. I mean, I'm just rooting for Derrick Henry for the first time in my life. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this moment. It's finally off the Titans. Let's
go. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you Sunday, 11 a.m. Right, Facino?
Yeah, let's do it.
We will see you Sunday, 11 a.m. Be there, be square. Get excited. Get the gambling books out. Get the spreads out. We're excited. We're pumped. Football's back. Let's fucking go.